Good morning. We are live now.
Ready? Okay. Good morning. Due to COVID-19, Committee of Adjustment public hearings are being conducted virtually by electronic means through WebEx webinar, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. Participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx webinar, which is moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We ask that you also mute your device until you are called on to speak. Today, Committee of Adjustment is offering attendees the option to appear by video. Those attendees that have registered in advance to attend by video will be temporarily upgraded to panelists when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Members of the public and applicants are not allowed to use share screen or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. The host will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The committee considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that applies to property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure you include your name, address, and email address because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body will be sending notification and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. The procedure today is that I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. When making your submissions, when an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with the presentation if so desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised to ensure the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then, individuals, either in support or opposed, will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker when they finish their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. We have a motion to confirm the minutes of the last meeting.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and
Yes.
panel members. No minutes for today to adopt.
Okay, thank you. Are there any declarations of interest of panel or staff with respect to the morning agenda? Okay. Any, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are there any deferrals or withdrawals from the morning list?
Through you, Mr. Chair, one file of withdraw, item 16, 778 King Street West. And there is one deferral request for item number 20, 83 Belfair Avenue.
Okay, so we will get to Belfair in time. So we don't need to make a motion or anything with respect to number 16?
To withdraw the application, yes, if we can have a motion.
Okay. All right, so do we have a motion to withdraw application number 16, 778 and 780 King Street West? Yes, Yim. We have a seconder. Yes, here. All in favor? The application is withdrawn. Thank you. Are there any files to be closed, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, just item number 16 has been withdrawn and closed.
All right, thank you. Let us now move on to number 551 Gladstone Avenue. The purpose of the application to alter the existing two-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a rear one-story addition, also to extend the existing rear second-story deck. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, email correspondence from Transportation Engineering, and correspondence in support from 553, 549, and 557 Gladstone Avenue. Mr. Garg. Mr. Garg on the line?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Can we have your name and your address for the record, sir?
Yes, Vibor Garg, 551 Gladstone Avenue.
All right, thank you. This is pretty straightforward, sir. We're going to take it into committee for discussion. Do you have anything you want to say before we go into committee?
No, just that as you saw, I spoke with the neighbors on both sides before I even pursued this work, and I spoke with another neighbor, and the reason I wanted it is just because I need additional space to put a ground floor bathroom, which is difficult for my mother, who's 75 years old, to visit currently without a ground floor bathroom.
Okay. All right, thank you. Panel, do you have any questions, or do we have a motion? Yes, Nimrod?
Yeah, I think this are minor in nature, and I would move approval with no conditions.
Do we have a seconder? Sahir? All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 2, 334 Beach Avenue. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing two-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a rear two-story addition with a rear ground floor, a rear ground level deck. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. We have email correspondence from Tree Protection, Urban Forestry, Ravine and Natural Feature Protection, Urban Forestry, Community Planning, and a staff report from planning and 3 form letters in support. Lena Rodriguez.
My name is Lena, and my address is 504 Perth Avenue, Toronto, M6N 2W7.
All right, and your last name is Rodriguez?
Yes,
All right.
thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. This too looks relatively straightforward. Do you have anything you want to say before we take it into committee?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Panel, do you have any questions? Okay, do we have a motion? Yes, Sahir.
Thank you, Chair. This particular application doesn't have any objections from the variety of city offices, and I think it's a fairly straightforward one. The asks are not great, so I'd like to move a motion to approve without any conditions.
You second that, Jim? Okay, all in favor? Have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Have a nice day.
Number 3, 2233 to 2335 Gerrard Street East. Purpose of this application is to construct a new 4-story apartment building with a total of 27 residential units. The lots will merge on title and the existing dwellings will be demolished. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. We have email correspondence from planning, a staff report from urban forestry, support from two people without addresses, and correspondence in opposition from a great many on Kimberly, Hodge, Osborne, Gerrard. Okay. Leonid Kotov.
Yes. Here.
Can we have your name and address, sir, for the record?
Absolutely. It's Leonid Kotov for 2233-2235 Gerrard Street East.
All right. Yeah, okay, sir, you better go ahead with your presentation because there's a great deal of opposition.
Yeah, absolutely. We provided a presentation, if that can just be pulled up. I won't be necessarily following through all of that, but it's a good reference point. Yeah, you can leave this one up as I go through it. Please let me know when I should start.
Okay, well, start as soon as you're ready.
Alrighty. Hello, members of the committee. Today, there's a very important decision that you can make on behalf of our city. We as a citizenry must decide if we want to get serious about the housing crisis we face by prioritizing missing middle housing, and particularly missing middle rental housing, which is what is being proposed here. The cost of land, ever-increasing development charges, inflation-driven cost of construction, and skyrocketing interest rates necessitate out-of-the-box thinking when it comes to density we are willing to permit on major streets within neighborhood designations to alleviate the housing shortage that we face. The subject site is located on the south side of Gerrard Street East, and it's a block east of the commercial residential zone on Main Street. The proposal is for a 4-story residential apartment building with 27 dwelling units. The proposed development would include 2 bachelor units, 12 one-bedroom units, and 13 two-bedroom units. A total of 37 bicycle parking spaces are proposed. This portion, actually, if you can go up one slide, this portion of Gerrard has a wide variety of uses, including apartment buildings, commercial buildings, townhomes, semis, and detached houses. It's located in our zone where apartment buildings are an allowable use. This portion of Gerrard Street East is classified as a major street on the official plan with a 20-meter right-of-way. It's important to note that the OP recognizes that lots fronting on major streets in designated neighborhoods are to be distinguished from lots in the interior of the neighborhood in order to recognize the potential for a more intense form of development along these major streets. The conditions recognized in policy 4.1.5 that distinguish major streets are present on Gerrard Street, including direct access to public transit, adjacency to more intense developments, and direct exposure to greater traffic volumes. The official plan permits this type of modest intensification along a major street, and in accordance with Policy 6, it would not serve as a precedent for development on other streets within the interior of the neighborhood. I would now like to go through some of the variances that were pointed out by both planning and neighbors. With regards to the depth, the lot is 150 feet deep. As a result, despite of the proposed depth of the building, there's almost 36 feet of rear yard setback. Further point of importance is that there's a parcel directly behind the subject property that is landlocked with no development potential. It's owned by the neighbor to our west, 2231 Gerrard Street East, and it extends for another 50 feet back. If you can actually pull up, there's a site plan. That's probably the best one for what I'm talking about. It extends for another 50 feet back. As such, any overlook will be effectively non-existent, as the back units would be over 85 feet away from the nearest backyard. As well, there's also a precedent worth pointing out just down the street on Hodge Lane, consisting of 3-story townhouses built along a public lane that extends approximately 86 meters south of Gerrard Street East. Sorry, whoever's controlling the presentation, there's a slide with, that's the one, there you go. Thank you. With regards to the noted height of 15.98 meters, that number is due to the mechanical penthouse projection. Measured to the top of the 4th floor of the building, it's actually 12.93 meters tall, 93 centimeters higher than what is allowed by the bylaw. This is done in order to achieve livable floor to ceiling heights of 9 feet in all the units. With regards to the openings along the side of the building, if you can go up to the first page, please. With regards to the openings, they are located strategically to ensure that there's no overlook. They do not extend, yeah, as you can see, yeah, you can go to the first one, that's fine. They do not extend past the depth of the building, and as you can see here on the cover page. With regards to the side yard setbacks, the planning report noted that a 7.5 meter side yard setback is required in the bylaw, as the building exceeds 12 meters. As noted, when we exclude the mechanical penthouse, the building is only 93 centimeters higher than permitted. Had the building been 93 centimeters shorter, the side yard requirement would have only been 1.2 meters. It should also be noted that the side yard setbacks proposed are in line with the prevailing character in the neighborhood, as concluded by Bousfield's planning report, which we shared with city planning. In fact, our neighbor to the west has a 0 meter side yard setback with an almost 12 meter high wall for a single family home right along the property line. With respect to the front yard setback, this variance is calculated by taking the average of the two adjacent neighbors. In our case, both neighbors are quite set back compared to the prevailing street pattern, which results in the front setback requirement of 7.64 meters. The 2 meters that we are proposing is almost matching the setbacks of the existing buildings and is in line with much of the street wall. Further, the proposed building is set back 5.49 meters from the curb along Gerrard Street East, and as mentioned, given this is an arterial road with an existing right-of-way of 20 meters, the front yard setback in the resulting sidewalk zone meets and exceeds the typically requested curb to building face dimension of 4.8 meters along these types of roads. Finally, I would also like to note that we have a report from transportation stating that they have no objections to the proposal. The building is 5 minutes walking distance from the GO train station and 10 minutes by foot to the main subway station. To conclude, I leave you with the following. If we can't support forward-thinking missing middle typologies that are rental focused in such a transit-rich area of the city along a major street, where can we? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Panel, any questions? Yim?
Just a quick one. Are you subject to SPA?
Sorry, what was your question?
Are you subject to site plan approval?
Correct. Yeah, we are subject to site plan approval, and that's in process right now with the city.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Yes, here.
Thank you. Just a quick question. In your presentation, it's the site analysis page that you're looking at. You've identified a few other apartment buildings in the neighborhood, one of which is just a little further east of where you are. Do any of these have on-site parking?
The other building that is just east, I think it might have underground, but it's quite a bit older. It's quite a bit older of a building. And then there's numerous four-story townhouse developments. I'm not positive if all of them have parking though. You know,
They have parking, and yours is the one that people are objecting to as providing no parking. Am I correct?
Correct. Yeah. One of the proposals that we did have initially with the city was for surface parking in the back. However, the preference was to keep it as green space rather than having concrete poured in the back for parking, or asphalt in the back for concrete, as the city said that it was very proximate to transportation, and as noted by the transportation notes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mr. Kotov, I just wanted to ask you about the height. That includes the equipment on the roof, the 15.98 meters?
Correct. Yeah. If I pull up the variance right now, I believe, well, yes, everything above 12.93 is the projection for the equipment. So we have a little doghouse, and then an exit onto exterior amenity space, and we have mechanical, all our mechanical, not all of our mechanical, but most of the mechanical located on the rooftop, which is what's causing that projection up. And it's in the middle of the building, so there's no overlook or shadowing that results from that projection.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Let's move on to Sonia Zott.
Sonia Zott. I live on Kimberly. I have a few objections in terms of.
Ms. Zott, could you tell us the address on Kimberly, please?
Oh, sorry, 88 Kimberly.
All right, thank you.
I have a few objections in terms of the front setback.
Timer.
There's very little room today in terms of the sidewalk space there. And I have concerns about where all the garbage cans are going to be going on garbage day, especially in the winter, when GERRARD has to be cleared and all the snow is put onto the sidewalk, and then your snow has to be cleared. I don't have an understanding of where that snow is going to go with such a small front setback. There'll be nowhere to put the snow. There'll be nowhere to put the garbage cans. There should be quite a few garbage cans considering there's 27 units. So I would like the developer to respond to that. I'd also like to have an understanding in terms of the trees in the front. It looks like the diagram is showing there'll be 2 trees planted, but I don't understand how those trees will grow with a balcony overhanging. So I'd like to have an understanding of that. And in terms of the parking, you were discussing all the neighboring buildings and townhouses, which all have parking provided for those buildings. So I'm not clear why parking can't be provided with this development. We've seen numerous proposals go through on GERRARD, and they all have an underground parking that's accessed with, for example, 7 to 10 parking spaces, which would be appropriate for this size building. And I'm not sure why this isn't being mandated for this building when it's clearly going to be needed for at least visitors coming to the building and a few of the residents that may have a vehicle. So I don't know why we can't mandate and revise this proposal to include some sort of underground or some sort of parking in the back. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Vincent Bruno.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay. So the gentleman, I don't know why it is. The gentleman that was speaking,
So,
I'm
Mr. Bruno, can we
I'm
have
a
your name and address for the record, please?
Vincent Bruno, 2239 Gerrard Street. I am the along with Mr. Amir Butt. I'm the immediate neighbor. I'm the one that is east of him. My setback is more than 20 enough to park my vehicle in my driveway, and this gentleman, he's bringing it up that he can't even put one car in front of his. I've been living in the neighborhood since 1987. I've been around when they were proposing a unit to be built there, and now they're proposing with no parking. Before the unit they proposed had plenty of parking, but even though I objected to the parking spaces in the backyard where children play, um, it seems that this is, as always, I've felt this is a residential area, and it's a problem with housing for people, but to destroy neighborhoods, to create that, is I object to that. Also, I agree with Mr. And most of my neighbors that we'll be congesting the area with no with people for parking, and imagine for garbage. So I truly I have not written a letter, but I am objecting to his proposal.
All right. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Amir Butt.
Last name is Butt, and I'm from 2231 Gerrard Street East. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much, sir. So, yeah, I have a couple of issues about these things. I'm agree with my neighbors, right? And I'm so wondering, like how come they're proposing 27 unit in a small place? We're gonna have the guy, their representative. They've done really good things, their own favors, but he hide a lot of things. What the neighbors gonna suffer from this building? Number one is the parking problem. Maybe you're gonna see it. We have a arena in front of our houses. Trust me, so many times the peoples are, when Saturday, Sunday, or whenever is a game over there, they are blocking my driveway, and I'm calling to the parking guys, and we are having a big issue, like the parking. Now they are making a 27 unit without parking. Unbelievable how we're gonna suffer it, especially in a winter. Sometime there's no parking space. We have to go half a mile to park the car, especially in a winter. There's the gentleman, he didn't mention it. He's kind of a handicapped person. We have other handicapped person here. Where they gonna park, and how they gonna travel from parking to their house? Now, if they show the picture like their drawing, can they show up their drawings, please? Whatever they are proposing. No, the other party, whatever the other party is showing, they are going 55, 59. Yeah, hey, that's it. If you look at your honor, the white block is my house. I already talked with the ex-owner. They have a plan to make a building like this, and I request him, if you are going ahead than me, let me know. I can put something special in my ceiling, because my ceiling is flat roofing. Now in a winter, all snow gonna hit their wall, and they're gonna come into my roof, and my house gonna be collapsed, because I put a regular ceiling, like a normal ceiling. I didn't do special things here. I request him, if you want to go do this one, tell me. I can put some special things, then I can suffer it. Now I'm going to suffer it. In the future, I have a plan to solar panel it, like advanced things going on. And now I'm going to lose my all shadow. I'm going to suffer it with the shadow. And then the like a safety issue, the distance should be 4 feet, and this distance is less than 4 feet. How they are making a window from my side? There's a code there. They have to make leave the space 4 feet, and this space is less than 4 feet. So it's gonna be a safety hazard. And then my neighbor mentioned it about the garbage. Garbage gonna be big issue here because somehow the city put electric pole in the middle of in a sidewalk. The sidewalk is very narrow, and where they gonna put their garbage? How the people's gonna walk from there? We already having already issue this one. They are putting a window on backside. I'm talking about the backside. There, I have a beautiful backyard there. They're half of their backyard in my property, because there, if you look survey, you can see there half of the backyard is in my property. I made a very beautiful backyard there, and my family sitting there and enjoying there. They put a window there and hide it there. My all privacy is gonna be finished. And then yeah, I have a couple of issue, but I don't have less. I have less times. We all neighbors gonna be suffer very bad and hard time. I'm so surprised about this gentleman, how beautiful words he used it, but he didn't use it. How bad the neighbors gonna suffer it. Your Honor, I'm requesting you. It's gonna be unfair with me if you give a proposal about these things. I'm really appreciated. Please concern these things. We have hundreds of neighbors there. All things. He hide it. You know, all properties, they have own parking there on backside. Whatever, they make a parking over there. We're gonna be, getting nervous. How come they're gonna get? How come they propose this building? They are not concerning about other people's what they're gonna suffer it. I'm really appreciated if you concern seriously about these things. I'm appreciated. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Butt. Margarita Zavadonova.
On the line?
Yeah,
Can you
we
hear
can
me?
hear you.
I reside at...
We can hear you now. Hello? Is she still on the line?
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, I was muted. It just said that I was unmuted. I live at 93 Kimberly Avenue.
What's your name, please, for the record?
Margarita Zavadonova.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi. My main objection is with complete lack of parking at this building. As per requirement, it's supposed to have 25 parking units, 5 visitor parking.
So,
yeah.
Margarita, we've heard a lot about the parking. Unless you have something new to add, we realize that's an issue. So if you have other things to, because we can't afford repetition. So go ahead.
No, I get it.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing that wasn't mentioned is just last week, Committee of Adjustment has approved another rental, four rental unit to go on Kimberly Avenue, to go up with no parking as well. So that will put additional parking strain on our streets. And now this building also will have 0 parking. So I just wanted to add that.
Right.
And that's it then. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Greg Sherry?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, Greg Sherry, 78 Osborne. Yeah, so I'm going to go quickly. So I object to the parking, the seemingly lack of garbage arrangement. I have an issue with the building depth. What is being asked for is not a minor variance. We're going from 14 to 30 meters. That combined with the height will cause both privacy and sunlight concerns with my backyard, and the lack of privacy and the sight line, like the lack of greenery, switching over to have a few more balconies looking into my backyard. So, so I'll keep it short. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Pardon? Yeah. Oh, he's here or he's not? Oh, okay. All right, we're back to you, Mr. Kotov.
There, sorry, I was muted until this moment.
All right, thank you.
So I'll address everything that I can. So the big concern, obviously, is with regards to parking. As mentioned, we did want to try to accommodate above grade parking. We were asked not to do that by the city. I would also like to note that a new bylaw has been passed with regards to the parking standards, eliminating parking requirements for the most part throughout the city. I think that was passed either yesterday or a few days ago. Our application predates this, but just for context. With regards to the garbage, we have 56 feet of frontage on the property. We're subject to site plan approval, so all of these details are being worked out. We have a garbage room that is in accordance with the TGS standard requirements. We have management that will ensure garbage is kept tidy, brought to the curb, removed from the curb. With regards to, I didn't fully follow with regards to part of the building being on someone else's property. I mean, there's a survey and it's not on anyone else's property. If that was what one of the people were saying. With regards to the shadowing, we also have a shadow study at the end. A lot of these lots are quite deep. So if you go to the last page of the presentation, maybe it's the second last page of the presentation. So, oh yeah, right up. Yeah, so that's the complete shadow study. But if you go up, the summary is one more. Thank you. Yeah, so these are it's like a summary of it. So there will be shadowing that starts getting cast towards the east, but as you can see, they're not cast onto the backyards. The backyards are remaining in white, and they're cast over the rooftops of the neighboring properties because this is south. The building's on the south side of the street. With regards to you know, snow removal is something that we have to deal with as we live in a northern city. There's allowances for that. We're working with a landscape architect. Again, site plan approval. This is subject to site plan approval, so that's something that's being worked through. And with regards to the trees, again, we have a full proposal in our site plan with specified volumes of soil and clearances that are required for these trees. There's nothing overhanging above the tree that would preclude it from growing. Yeah, I think that covers everything that the neighbors have brought up. If you guys have any other questions, I'm happy to answer them, of course. Yes.
Yim?
Yes, I have a quick question. I'd like to know, is there some temporary parking on Gerrard Street for delivering or maintenance?
Is there
temporary
parking for delivery? Yeah. Well, there's you can park on Gerrard Street during certain times. I think there's excluded times except for the peak rush hour times. I believe it's the usual between 9 and 10 you can't park, and 4 to 6, but otherwise for pickups, a lot of the tenants would frankly just don't own cars. They're either walking to the...
I understand that, but I'm thinking about like parcels and just delivering.
Oh yeah. So you can just pull over on Gerrard right in front of the building, and
they can, right? Gerrard Street
yeah.
is where what they use. Okay.
Yeah, it's 2 lanes there.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
So, Mr. Kotov, just with respect to garbage and snow, you say you still need site plan approval. I assume that you have, I think you said you have a garbage room. You won't be putting out 27 bins from each apartment. With respect to snow, I assume if there's no place to put it, you're gonna have it hauled away?
Yeah, of course. It's something that needs to be worked through. Current plan is to push it closer to the building, where we have quite a bit of space in the back if need be, for snow, which is there's a common area in the back and the exterior, which would be hardscape, but then the rest of it is softscape. So there's quite a bit of space for any snow. There's certainly not one garbage bin per unit. Typically, it's one bin per 4 to 5 units. One garbage, one recycling, and one green bin per 4 to 5 units. That's usually the ratio. So we won't have the amount that some of the neighbors are concerned about.
So just with the issue of Mr. Buck, who lives next door, is concerned that snow is going to go on his roof from your building.
I'm not really sure how that. Yeah, I wasn't really following how that will happen. So we have a flat roof, and he has a flat roof as well. We don't have anything that would slant towards his property, which would cause snow to fall onto him. So I'm not sure about the physics of that. Maybe if you can clarify. Yeah, because the slope is for the flat roofs is front to back, usually, or vice versa. It's not side to side. Our property, not his. Yeah. And I do note that his property is built at a 0-meter side yard setback, so maybe that's part of his concern, but I don't know how we would exacerbate that condition relative to, let's say, if we built an as-of-right house at 0.9 meters away from him, the same way that we're proposing now.
All right, thank you. Any further questions, panel? Sahir?
Yeah, just coming back to the comparisons you presented in your presentation, Green Street flats. You're sort of suggesting that there's precedence in terms of high rises, and you're right, there are high rise units. From your presentation, it appears that both the sites that you present as examples are much larger sites. I'm not sure how many units there are in 2287 Gerrard Street East. Do you know by any chance?
I don't know offhand how many units there are.
What would you
guess? But it's a 5-story building. I would guess somewhere around 40, maybe like mid 30s.
So not much more than the number that you're proposing, but it seems that those sites, or that particular site, seems to be much larger than the site you are proposing to build on. So I just find that comparison as an example of high density building on Gerrard is not quite accurate. My concern also, I think parking is an issue. It appears that you've got a very small lot relative to what you're trying to build. I commend you for trying to build housing units, no question about that. But my sense is that there's just too much build on the lots that you have. In addition, parking, to suggest that people in your units would not have vehicles or not require vehicles, I think is not quite appropriate to suggest that nobody will want to have a vehicle. And the question is, where do they park? I think this becomes an issue for me. The other piece is that your proposal also is looking at significant reduction of green space, soft landscaping, both front and rear. So I have lots of concerns about your proposal. And I also would like, take into account the variety of, and a larger number actually of people in the neighborhood have some serious concerns.
Yeah, those are all fair points. As mentioned, with regards to the parking, there are new bylaws that are now in effect with regards to the removal of parking minimums. So I think that's just a clear direction of where planning is going and the realities of the infrastructure of our city. Public transit is being promoted, and people are using vehicles less. With regards to the green space, we do have quite a bit of green space in the back of the property. But listen, there's always, it's a push and pull, right? In order to create units for people to live in, it will necessitate less green space. The other alternative is you build a smaller footprint and you go higher, but that's something that's not allowed under the official plan in this area. We're limited to four stories, right? And these are the things that we are up against in every neighborhood, which is predominantly single family homes within these R zone designations. With regards to the other examples in the area, there's another one, the 2264, 2282 Gerrard Street East, on the third page of the presentation. This is a townhouse block that's 4 stories high and built more dense than what we are proposing. There's zero green space whatsoever. Now those are individually owned, but in cumulatively they create a block that looks like an apartment building, just like what we are proposing. So these things are difficult. It's certainly difficult trade-offs, but that's why I started the presentation with saying that we need to decide if what the priorities are for the city and how we're going to try to face the housing shortage that we're currently facing.
Yim?
Yeah, I have another question about the transportation comment. If the staff can pull out that comment, is that at the moment they don't have any objection, but they said that there's some comments and conditions relating to the site plan control application. Can you explain to us that what the comments are and conditions?
You got to give me a second to pull that up if you don't mind. I think it's just general ECS comments from transportation specifically. Do you mind giving me a minute so I can pull that up? Transportation.
But it's to be dealt with at the site control level?
Yes, it's a site plan issue. I just don't recall exact because it's a document that we get that's hundreds of pages long. So I can try to pull that page out, but I don't remember the exact everything that they required there. It's not with regards to this is we don't have enough space for parking and that this is going to create congestion. We do have a report from the BA group, which concludes the exact same thing as transportation, that there won't be significant strains as a result of our parking proposal. I'm trying to find it, but I currently cannot.
Mr. Chair, I just get a little bit worried if they have comments and conditions that we do not know, and at the same time they don't have objection. I just want to clarify that.
But it's going to be dealt with at a different level, Yim, so I think that we've got to accept the fact that no comments with respect to the variances and let them work it out at the site plan level.
Yes, I understand that, but what I mean, unless the change is going to have, why can't they tell us what the conditions are?
There might be conditions with regards to what the with like if I remember correctly, actually it's something along the accessing to the bike parking spots that was the issue. So what they wanted was because it's located in the basement. So what we're going to be doing is along the stairs, a place where you can put the tires of the bike to roll it down, so it's not just bouncing down onto the stairs. That's what it was. So they want
Okay,
that as a
thank,
condition
thank
of the
you. That's a good,
construction.
that's,
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah, thank
Sorry,
you.
that took a while to find.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Panel, any further questions, or can we go into committee? Okay. In committee, do we have any comments, or do we have a motion? Sahir?
Just some comments, Mr. Chair. Having listened to the presentation and also, the comparisons, etc., and particularly looking at all the objections from a variety of neighbors, I think they've had a lot of objections. I find that the current proposal of 27 units with absolutely no parking is somewhat unacceptable, certainly to me. So I can't support this particular application.
So Sahir, I think you got to take into account the new bylaw that doesn't require parking, and as Mr. Kotov said, they discussed parking, on-site parking at the back above ground, and the city said, no, we're happier with the soft landscaping. So, and the bylaw, there's no longer any minimum requirement with respect to parking. So I think if that's your only objection, then it's, things have changed. So we've got to go along with the city's direction. They're looking for more housing, and they're trying to promote public transit. So I think we have to keep that in mind. Any further comments, Nimrod?
Yeah, I do have some concerns with what's being proposed. While it may be appropriate to have an apartment form type of building on this site, I think that based on the 14 variances that we have, I think many of them are not minor in nature. For example, the FSI going from 1 to 2.8, I don't see that as a minor variance, for example. The building depth going from 14 meters to over 30 meters, I don't see that as minor either. And even though the possible new bylaw does not require any parking, to think that no one who will be living in this building will have a vehicle, or no one will have visitors that come with the vehicle, is not reasonable.
Yeah. Okay. Yim?
I have slightly different thoughts because I think that this type of housing, although it's no parking, it seems that there are enough renters. They do not require, they do not have a vehicle, and there's a lack of renting units for all kinds of people. And I think that this will be good for certain people or single or small family. They do not have a vehicle. Um, because parking is the only issues here, and I think that because they're subject to site plan approval or site plan control application, I'm not too concerned with that because the building department will go through in more details of all these issues about garbage, about bicycle storage, and probably with traffic studies and all that. So I think that as long as the build form and also the type of housing, I think that is necessary for the city and for this area. And I'm in support of that. And I also agree with the comments that Don made earlier.
All right, Peter?
Thanks, Don. I think my colleagues have all made very good points, and I agree with all of them. I don't necessarily have a concern with the parking, and I do think there are a lot of similar examples of this type of density within the neighborhood and scattered around. And this is a large building for its site, but I do think that it's kind of the next evolution of this mid-height multi-unit building. And I agree. I think keeping the larger picture in mind is important. So I'm going to be supporting it as well.
Yeah. I think that we have another example of this type of four-story building with more density and less parking today, and it has 85 emails in favor. Now, I took objection, as you all know, because we didn't have addresses, et cetera. I don't know where some of those objections are coming from, whether they're neighbors or whatever. I know one of them comes from a real estate broker who works in the St. Clair, Bathurst area. And she's supporting it on principle because that's what the city's looking for, this kind of missing middle. And I think it's important. And I agree with Nimrod that it seems to be, the depth seems to be a little large, but I think you've got to take into account when you consider the depth that there's 50 feet or so behind the building that, although not owned by this particular applicant, is still behind the building, and that you take that in the context, the building doesn't overwhelm the lot when you consider that there's 50 feet behind there, even though it's not owned by them. But I would support this as well. I think it's a very good development. Okay, so let's move on. Yim, do you have a motion?
Yes, yes. I like. Is there a forestry condition 2 and 3? Yeah.
Yes.
I think that
Yes, yeah.
forestry condition 2 and 3. With that condition, I like to move for approval.
Yeah, I think there's some transportation conditions too. Oh, maybe it's, I don't know whether it's a condition or it just said subject to site plan control, so I'm not sure. Sabrina,
No,
is that a
yeah, because
condition?
I don't think so. I think it's only a comment because they're still subject to site plan approval. Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, do we have a seconder for the motion? Peter? All right, all in favor of the motion? All opposed? Motion is carried 3-2. Thank you. Number 4, 5 Normana Avenue. Purpose of this application is to alter the existing 2-story detached dwelling by constructing a partial 3rd-story addition, as well as to enclose a portion of the front porch and to construct new front porch stairs. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. We have support, 7 form letters in support from Normana, Gwinnett, and Arlington. Mr. Galbraith?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Sean Galbraith, planner here on behalf of the application.
What's your address, sir?
Oh, 18 King Street East, Suite 1400.
We should know that already, but we don't. Okay. So is there anything you want to say before we take it into committee?
I think this is a pretty straightforward one. The FSI appears a bit high, but that's because it includes the basement. And if you exclude that, it's in keeping with the FSI of projects around it.
So I just wanted to ask you a question with respect to the dormers, which you say have a width of 104% of the total width of the building's main walls. I saw a diagram, and it didn't appear to extend beyond the side of the building. Am I missing something there?
In my cover letter, there's an illustration of that variance. It does extend a little bit wider than the front wall because the roof itself is much wider than, so not that one. Scroll down a little bit more, please. Keep going. Here we are. That one. So that one there. So if you notice, the roof itself is much wider than the actual house that it's sitting on. So the red vertical lines indicate the width of the main front wall. And so the little bit of blue on to the left and to the right of those red lines, that's where it's 104% of the width of the wall.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Panel, any questions? Okay, any comments, or do we have a motion? Peter?
Thanks, Chair. I think this is a good project, and the variances are small, and the additional FSI that's being proposed is masked in a way that has very little impact on the neighbors. So I think collectively these variances are minor, and I move approval with no conditions.
All right, do we have a seconder? Is it here? All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you. Number 5734 Richmond Street West. The purpose of this application is to convert the existing two-story semi-detached dwelling into a duplex by reconstructing the rear one-story addition, the rear two-story addition, and the front porch, and by constructing a rear third-story addition, a rear basement walkout, and rear second and third-story balconies. Also to construct a one-story ancillary building, detached garage in the rear yard abutting the laneway. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant in 3 form letters in support from residents on Richmond Street West. Mr. Spagnolo?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. My name is Franco Spagnolo from Studio Spagnolo, Inc., 911 Chippenham Drive, Mississauga. I'm the owner's representative. Unfortunately, we are requesting to defer this application today. After I reviewed the documents a few days ago, once the owner has hired me to represent him, I believe that the original zoning examiner, who's no longer with Toronto Building, made a few errors. One of the variances was removed yesterday by the new examiner. I resubmitted the zoning review. The last variance was removed because it's in our district. But further review, I believe that the examiner missed depth, and we don't want to go through this process. And the owner is quite frustrated because he's gone through all the processes correctly and paid fees, but we don't want to go through this. And if approved today and get a permit, then we'd have to come back to the committee, because I did speak to the new zoning examiner this morning very quickly. He was kind enough to call me last minute, and unfortunately we want to defer for that reason, because it is not accurate.
You have to serve a new notice.
Correct. And unfortunately, like I said, the owner, the proposal hasn't changed since day one, which was submitted almost 6 months ago. So he's quite frustrated, but at this point, to go through the process and for a variance to be identified at the building permit stage, we'd have to pay new fees and go through the whole process, which is not fair at that point, right?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Panel, do you have any questions, or is there somebody have a motion for deferral? Nimrod?
Yeah, I'll move a motion to defer this application in order to give the applicant time to review the necessary variances.
Chair, if I may just ask a quick question.
Yes.
Based on the explanation we got, it appears that the issue was something that was not within the realm of the applicant. If it's a city issue or problem generated by the city, would there be an additional fee being charged to this applicant?
No, there's no fee. I don't
No
think
fee.
there's any fees any longer for deferred items.
Wonderful. In that case, I'll be happy to second the motion.
All right, all in favor? You have your deferral, sir. Thank you. Number 6, 28 Dunvegan Road.
Good morning.
Just a minute, sir. We need a proper introduction here. All right, the purpose of this application is to construct a new 4-story detached dwelling with a new rear open patio and covered porch, a 1st-story front balcony, and 2nd and 3rd-story rear balconies. Also to construct a new 1 1/2-story ancillary building, a coach house, and to install an in-ground swimming pool in the rear yard. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. We have email correspondence from planning and a staff report from urban forestry, opposition from 103 Warren, well, I think one of the addresses is wrong. 2 addresses, anyway, there's opposition from 2 addresses on Warren Road. So, Mr. Lolos? Pardon? Okay. But he was on, and I told him to hold on, and he hung up. I'm sorry if I insulted him. Okay. Mr. Lolos, are you on the line?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I didn't intend to cut you off. It's just that I needed to introduce the application.
Not a problem, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank
Would you
you.
please go ahead? We have opposition.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. We would like to defer the application for various reasons, primarily to wait for our secondary review from zoning, which is taking a bit longer than anticipated, because we feel that we can make reduce some of the variances or hopefully eliminate some of the variances. But the overall intention and contact will probably stay as where it is. But we definitely feel that we can reduce some of the variance numbers. So we're seeking for a deferral until we get back our secondary submission zoning review that has been submitted, but unfortunately we're still waiting for it.
Okay, thank you. Andrea Marcus?
Warren Road, which you did have, but you said couldn't be the.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Can we have your name and address, please?
I said, my name is Andrea Marcus. I live at 103 Warren Road, behind the home.
Okay, the applicant has asked for a deferral because they're getting a secondary zoning review, and they anticipate being able to reduce some of the variances. Do you have any objection to the deferral?
Yes, I do, because he said also that he doesn't plan on changing that much.
No, that's not what he said. He said he does not plan to change the intention. In other words, they're going to build the house, but they're going to reduce some of the variances.
Okay, so I do have one thing to say. I have waited through this entire program. I work for a living, and I waited through this program patiently. And this was, he wanted a deferral. It should have probably gone in before we even had the meeting. That's one. I'd appreciate that in next, if it happens again. And 2, the 4 stories and the amount of coverage that he is putting on.
But
and if
we're
that
not, Miss Marcus, Ms. Marcus, please address the issue, which is deferral. Yes
If
or
you
no?
defer it, I'll have to be back, correct? I'll have to come back again.
Yes.
So I'm objecting to a deferral. I'd like him to have to do the application completely over again with all his changes. Because I'm objecting to the deferral because he could defer again the next time. This is my time too.
Yeah.
And it's
Okay, so you're opposed to the deferral. All right, thank you. Yolanda and Cyril Baldisson.
No objections.
Ms. Baldisson?
Yes.
Yes. The applicant has asked for a deferral. Do you oppose the deferral? It's going to make
No.
some changes to the proposal, presumably to make it more acceptable to the neighbors. So do you have an objection to the deferral, or are you in favor of a deferral?
In favor, your chairman.
All right.
Chairman.
Thank you very much. All right.
Okay.
Panel, you have any questions, comments, or do we have a motion? Yes, Peter.
Thanks, Chair. I think the request for deferral is reasonable, considering that the applicant needs to wait for the building department to get, or the zoning department to get back with revised variances. So I move deferral of the application.
All right, we have a seconder. Yes, Zahir. All in favor of the deferral? You have your deferral, sir. Thank you very much. Item number 7, 32 Preston Road. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing two-story detached dwelling by constructing a rear two-story addition with a rear ground floor level patio, and to legalize and maintain the front porch stairs and front basement walkout, which were constructed without the benefit of a permit. With this application, we have materials submitted by the applicant and correspondence from Urban Forestry. Luis Bajana.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning. Can we have your name and address for the record, sir?
Name is Luis Bahania. Address is 4 Munhall Road, Toronto, Ontario.
Okay, thank you, sir. This is a very straightforward application. I don't believe we need to have any presentation. Do you have anything you want to say before we go into committee?
No, like you said, straightforward. We don't have a building length problem, just a depth. The property is about 205 feet long. We have about 110 beyond the proposed rear setback, so pretty straightforward. It's a really extremely long property, so I don't foresee any issues with that. We've seen all the comments from Forestry and have no issues or questions regarding those comments made.
All right, thank you. Panel, any questions, or do we have a motion? Yim?
Yeah, no question. I'd like to move for approval because, yeah, if they have very, very long sites, and I don't think the extra depth will create any negative impact. So I move for approval with no conditions.
All right, thank you. Peter, you second that motion? All right, all in favor? Have your approval. Sahir, are you in favor? All, you have your approval, sir. Thank you very much. Number 8, 30 Rednor Road. Purpose of this application is to convert the existing one-story detached dwelling from one unit into 2 units, one primary unit and one secondary unit, by constructing a second-story addition and a rear 2-story addition. The primary unit will occupy the ground and second levels, and the secondary suite will occupy the basement level. Also to construct a covered front porch, a rear ground level deck, and a front second-story bay window with a dormer roof extension above. With this application, we have materials submitted by the applicant. We have correspondence from Community Planning and a staff report from Urban Forestry, one form letter in support Shahid Nanavati.
My name is Shahid Nanavati, and I am from 1304 Woodbine Avenue.
All right, thank you, sir. This seems relatively straightforward. Do you have anything to say before we take it into committee?
No, sir. I'll answer any questions that come up.
Thank you. Panel, any questions, comments, or do we have a motion? Yes, Namrod?
Yeah, I think that the variances before us are minor in nature, and I would move approval subject to conditions from community planning and urban forestry number 1 and 2.
Right. So here you second the motion?
Yes.
All in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you. Number 934 Collin Avenue. Purpose of this application is to alter the existing two-story detached dwelling by reconstructing the front second-story balcony. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, a report from Urban Forestry, correspondence from 32 Collin Avenue, and Jennifer Harris.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I just wanted to correct the notice. It's actually the rear balcony in the rear. It's not the front.
So it's a rear second-story balcony, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
I was in touch with the zoning, the person on the file, and he issued a secondary notice to all the neighbors.
So that was sent out within the time limit?
Yes, it was.
Okay, all right, but what we got is wrong. So it has to be, the purpose has to be amended to say the rear second-story balcony.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can confirm that that was mailed out on time.
Right, thank you. Okay. All right, so is there anything, Ms. Harris, is there anything you want to say before? There's someone from 32 Collin who wants to speak. Apparently she's in support, but just let me give you an opportunity to say anything you want before I go to Ms. Frey and I take it into committee.
Okay, thank you. There was another letter of support from 43 LaSalle's, and that was issued just the other day. And they directly see the backyard of this home. The reason for reconstructing it is because the deck was made out of wood 30 years ago and it had disintegrated. The only reason to be at Committee of Adjustment is because the bylaws have changed since they were initially given permission to build it. And the reason why we're here is because it had disintegrated and too much of the deck had fallen down before we were able to get a building permit. If the majority of the structure had remained, we would have been able to get a building permit and we would not have had to come to Committee of Adjustments.
It's a sad story, actually. Okay,
Yes.
so any questions, panel? Okay, it's Mary Pat Frey.
Very sad story. Is it Mary Pat Fry, and I'm at 32 Collin Avenue. And I just wanted to say I'm fully in support of this, so I don't really need to say any more, I don't think. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, panel.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. We do have another person on the line, Stu Gavin. Can we just hear if he's speaking in support, concern, or opposition?
Yes, Mr. Gavin.
Hello, Stu Gavin. I live at 36 Collin Avenue. I'm the owner of that property.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to speak. I just wanted to say to the committee that we'll be in agreement provided the following, that the balcony is constructed as per the application. Two, that it will not exceed the measurements as per the construction plans, and it's conditional on proof of compliance. For us, it's imperative that the balcony does not exceed the 3 feet 2 inches as per the construction plans. As it was, the original balcony could be seen from the inside of our home. So it will impose further on our privacy if it's constructed any larger. So also, balcony on the property line, the balcony is on our property line and will affect my property value and our privacy. So for these reasons, it's very important that we agree, but conditional on proof that it's built as that it's under compliance. And I'd mentioned, and I just want to make sure that the contractor doesn't alter what was applied for. How can we get proof of compliance? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Harris?
No intention, thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's no intention of doing anything other than what has been submitted. This deck is really just to rebuild what was there. And absolutely, we would follow everything that was the contractor, and the drawings would be built exactly the way they're supposed to be built, and it would be inspected by the city inspector. I'm not sure why we would be allowed to build anything other than what has been presented. It's what we're being given. This is for a bylaw, and then what would be built would be for a building permit, and it has to adhere to the drawings. And you can't change anything once the building permit has been issued according to the drawings.
Yep, thank you. All right, panel, do you have any questions, or Yim?
No question. I have a motion.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, my comment is that this according to the information, this balcony has been existing for like over 22 years or something. And then I think that to make the one of the speakers feel more comfortable, we can actually tie it to the plan drawing A3, which shows the dimension of the balcony. And with that, I would like to move for approval.
Right, and there's a forestry condition number 2, I think.
Yes.
All right,
yes.
Do we have a seconder here?
Yes, Mr. Chair, but may I just ask Ms. Chan if we might want to just ask the applicant if the materials being used for the balcony be opaque, just so that the neighbor who's concerned has some comfort from the fact that the balcony will not be transparent.
Do you mean like privacy screen on the east side?
Privacy screen or whatever materials they're using. I'm not sure they're using glass for the balcony, in which case it's somewhat opaque material, so that there's privacy issues are addressed.
Yes, if I'm sure that the homeowner would not object to a privacy screen on that side.
Perfect. In which case, I'll second the motion, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, do we have a measurement? 1.5 meters, our usual measurement for a privacy screen. Is that okay, Yim?
I guess because it didn't seem to be a discussion on privacy screening during the presentation. So what about? We can, yeah.
Sorry, this is
through you, Mr. Chair. We are in committee.
Yes.
At this time, so we can only hear from the committee members.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I do not mind the privacy screen on the east side of the balcony, 1.5 meter from the deck, from the finished deck, with forestry condition 2, and also tied to joins A3.
All right. And Zahir, you second that motion?
Yes, sir.
All right, all in favor? Have your approval, thank you. Next item is number 10, 66 Parkway Avenue. The purpose of this application is to convert the existing two-story ancillary building in the rear yard abutting the laneway into a laneway suite. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. Angus Skeen, pardon me.
I'm the architect and agent for the application.
Yeah, can we have your name and address for the record, sir?
Yes, certainly. My name is Angus, A-N-G-U-S. The last name is Skeen, S-K-E-N-E. I'm the architect and agent, 142 Glendale, Toronto, M6R 2T2.
All right, thank you. Seems straightforward, sir. Before I take it into committee, do you have anything you want to say to the panel?
No, I'm fine. Of course, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you. Panel, any, yes, Zahir?
With variance number 2, there's a significant reduction requested in soft landscaping. I was looking at the site plans and I have a question for the applicant because I noticed in the rear yard, I believe there are, if I could just get to that particular page, bear with me. I believe it's A1A. You've got existing pavers and other hard landscaping. Could you mitigate the request in variance number 2 by extracting some of the pavers and replacing it with soft landscaping? That might change the numbers there.
Yeah, certainly that could be done. I think what I'll just say in advocacy for the owner is this person's lived at this property, I think, for 25 to 30 years. The proposal is dealing in absolutely existing conditions. They could, of course, pull up the pavers and replace them. It would be their preference, obviously, to not undertake that work. If, however, the committee or a majority of the committee felt that they could give their approval to the overall proposal, but only on the basis of changing these soft landscaping numbers, I know the owner would certainly agree to do that, as you can imagine, as a reasonable person. But their preference is to leave everything as existing, if that makes sense. So I'd say amenable, but a little bit reluctant, perhaps. Is that a way to put it? But certainly amenable at all times. Obviously, the goal is to obtain the larger approvals, and landscaping can be altered, of course.
All right, any further questions, Nimrod?
So then what could you do? What numbers could you change it to for the soft landscaping?
You know, doing it on the fly, if I opened the AutoCAD drawing, I could give a specific number. I'm just looking at the numbers on the drawing right now. We're down by about 353 square feet, which is about 32 square meters. You'd like it expressed in terms of percentages, I'm sure. So, how about if we're asking for 62 and the bylaw requires 85? I'm sort of making this up as I go here. If I added 10% and got it to 72%, would that be of interest, I suppose?
Yes, Jim.
What about just make it like 75%, you're 10% below?
Yeah. No, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking okay, we'll have to measure the pavers and pull them up. I hope I'm coming off as sincere, because I'm sincerely trying to do this on the fly. But if that's a number that makes sense, the 75, then certainly that would be fine.
I think that sounds like a reasonable mitigation.
Okay, all right. Do we have?
And also because I started trying to make a comment, although.
Pardon, Jim?
I make a comment when we are in committee.
Yeah.
And so did we need an actual square meters as well for that soft landscaping?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes.
Yes, we would.
Oh, okay. Shall I do that? I know you,
Yes,
okay, I'll do it right now. That's
Okay.
fine. I've got to figure out what's he carrying as well. Okay, give me a moment. 2, 3, 3, 1. 0.7. Okay. Okay, if you can bear with me, because the zoning examiner is using his own rear yard area number that I have to tease out of the zoning review. If you give me 1 second, I'm going to just do that. 0.85 times x equals 122.8. X equals 8 divided equals 144.47. Okay, right. Times 0.75 equals 108. We would be content. We can do 75%, and that would be 108 square meters of soft landscaping provided.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, do we have a motion? Zahir?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd be very happy to move a motion to approve as amended, variance number 2 being amended. I think that's the only, yeah, I think that would be the only condition that's attached to that.
Yes, do we have a seconder? Peter, all in favor? Have your approval. Thank you, sir. Number 11, 409 Northcliffe Boulevard. Purpose of this application is to alter the existing one-story detached dwelling by constructing a one-story rear addition with a front integral garage, second and third story additions with a front balcony on the second level and front and rear terraces on the third level. The ancillary building shed at the rear abutting the laneway will be demolished. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, opposition from 409, well, it says 409 Northcliffe, but I assume that's incorrect. But it's someone on Northcliffe who's objecting. So Imran Khan.
I'm the agent and applicant on behalf of the owner. My address is 1906 Parkside Drive, Pickering.
Right.
If I want to explain our minor variances, there are 3 variances.
Okay,
Those
sir, I don't think,
mostly.
sir, I think this is relatively straightforward, so we can take it in without you making a presentation. If you have anything you want to say before we go into committee, please say. Please tell us what it is, and then we'll take it up.
Yeah, I don't have that much to say because it's very straightforward and minor in nature. So we are pretty much our opinion. This is very much compatible for this neighborhood, for this kind of development. Thanks.
Okay, I just want to ask you with respect to variance number 3, you have a platform that's 11.06 meters square when it's the permitted is 4 meters square. Is there overlook on that balcony?
This is basically in the roof of the second level, and we are just trying to use the roof of the second level at the back.
So do you overlook your neighbors' yards?
But that's the width of the that part is not that much. Depth of the that part is not that much. Only it's following the width of the building. So the area of the that terrace, basically this is a terrace, is 11 point.
So is it set back from the edge of the building, or is it right at the edge?
Yeah, yeah, it's from one side to another side of the building.
Okay, panel, do you have any further questions? Peter?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I just had a question about the garage, and from the front elevation, from the west elevation, it appears that it's quite below grade, and the established grade line is showing on the drawing, and then half of the garage is not visible. So is there a downward slope? That's my question.
Yeah, there is a downward slope. Yeah.
And that doesn't trigger another I know often we get variances that relate to that there's a negative slope going towards the house, and that wasn't identified. So is that something you checked into?
Yeah, we are our plan, whatever we submitted for committee of adjustment variances, we also submitted for the zoning review, right? So this is the same plan, and we are also proposing this down slope to the garage. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So do I take it that the downslope isn't sufficient to trigger a variance because there's no danger of water flowing into the garage?
If it doesn't comply with the zoning, so it has to go through variance. Yeah.
But this does comply.
Yeah, this does comply because it's not in the list of the variances, right? So in our sense, it's not a variance for our application.
Right, thank you. Yes, Yim?
I thought that it's not about zoning though. The reverse slope is usually like engineering conditions that either they approve, is that like an agreement that they have to sign with the city that they building a reverse slope? That's what my knowledge is, but I'm not too sure. Zoning will not be doing with that. It's an engineering condition.
Yeah, actually, whatever required for processing the building permit and for the construction to be finished, we have to do. Yeah, we absolutely, the owner knows that, and he is obligated to do this.
Okay, thank you. Zahir?
Mr. Chair, I was just wondering if we could ask Deputy Secretary Treasurer to weigh in on this one, because I had the same concern. I was under the impression that this would definitely trigger some reaction from the city, the reverse slope driveways.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I have just checked the zoning review and nothing is stated there. And whatever comments we've received are uploaded here in the agenda package. So if there are any further concerns at the point of building permit, then that will be raised at that time. And if an additional application is required, then the applicant will have to submit a new minor variance application.
Okay. Thank you. All right, do we have any comments or any further questions, or do we have a motion? Peter?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to bring a motion. I don't have a problem with the application, like the massing of the house. And my concern was just the negative slope to the garage, and I'm a bit concerned that maybe transportation just missed that. And as Yim said, I think that's right, that it often is brought in as a condition of transportation. So I'm wondering maybe if we can just proactively add that in as a condition. I would move approval of the application subject to transportation department's approval of the driveway, if that's acceptable to my fellow members.
So would it be transportation, or would it be building, or both?
I think transportation. I think in my memory, Jim is right that transportation usually puts in a condition related to the angle of the slope and that it must comply with their non-negative requirement.
All right, Jim?
But I'm open to my colleagues' suggestions here.
Jim, did you have any comments, or are you seconding the motion?
I'm actually seconded. I think that I like the first attempt of Peter's condition is to have subject to transportation's approval of the driveway.
Yep, okay, thank you. All in favor? You have your approval, sir, thank you. Number 12, 58 Winners Circle. Purpose of this application is to alter the existing three-story detached dwelling by constructing a rear third-story addition. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, Mike de Oliveira.
Mike de Oliveira. I'm here representing 50 Winter Circle, and I'm with Replacement Design located at 11 Davenport Road.
Mr. Oliveira, could you speak up a little? We're having trouble hearing you.
Yeah, certainly. So my name is Mike de Oliveira. I'm here representing 58 Winter Circle, and I'm with Replacement Design located at 11 Davenport Road. Is that any better?
Yes, much better. Thank you. I don't think we need a presentation. Do you have anything you want to say before we go into committee?
No, I think it speaks for itself. We're well within similar approvals in the neighborhood. There's FSIs way beyond what we're asking for on the street itself, similar with our main wall height variance. So open to any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Panel, any questions, comments? Do we have a motion? Yim?
Yeah, I'd like to move a motion because I think the variance is minor in nature and asking for very little, and it's quite reasonable. So I move for approval with no conditions. Yeah.
All right. Second, Zahir. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you. Number 13, 330, 394 Markham Street. Purpose of this application is to construct an ancillary structure, covered carport with a green roof in the rear yard abutting the laneway. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant in reports from Transportation and Urban Forestry. Sean McCaffrey.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Can we have your name and your address for the record, sir?
Yes, of course. My name is Sean McGaffey, S-E-A-N, and I work at Suite 970 at 90 Eglinton Avenue East, M4P 2Y3 in Toronto.
Right, thank you. I don't think we need I don't think we need a presentation, sir. Is there anything you want to say to the committee, to the panel before we go into committee?
Yes, if I may, just two brief items. I did have a chance to review the transportation report and their recommendation that we essentially shift the roof of this carport structure back 0.69 meters into the site to remove the need for variance number 1. I think that would actually have the effect of removing the need for both variances, but I'll just briefly touch on our rationale for why this has been approached the way that it has and why it's located where it is, if you may. So perhaps if I could just have the screen put to the site plan and maybe just zoom in on the carport. But the way that this structure works is essentially if you go down the Markham Street laneway, you'll see there's various parallel parking spaces where people park parallel to the laneway within an inset portion of their rear yard. So this is basically continuing on that pattern along Markham Street, but providing what I guess is really like a cantilevered landscape arbor over the car to just shield it from the elements. And that roof of this structure will be planted with a green roof, and it's designed in a wood slat system by the same architect who worked on the main house, so Hariri Pontarini Architects. And I completely understand the rationale and the reasoning for the transportation comments that they've issued. Where I think the approach that's before you today makes sense is that Markham Street, within the block of Harvard to the north, Bathurst to the east, College to the south, and Manning to the west, Harvard Street is the only lane, or Markham Street, sorry, the block of Markham and Palmerston Avenue is the only block that doesn't have a laneway that continues out. So this is a dead-end lane behind this property, and it's one where it's already significantly obstructed. Well, obstructed is not the right word, but there's a substantial number of either laneway housing, existing garages, fencing, surface parking, sitting on the rear lot lines of this laneway, as well as a 4-story brick apartment building to the south sitting on the rear lot line that will preclude future expansion of this laneway to the typical 5-meter standard. And in that sense, I think this is a reasonable application before you. If we were talking about a brick garage with a proposed 0.31 meter setback, I don't think I'd be before you today, and I would agree with transportation's assessment. But the way that this has been designed, including providing 2.3 meters of vertical clearance under the arbor structure, ensures that we're meeting the bylaw requirements or even exceeding them for vertical clearance and maneuvering for a parking space. And so I don't see this application precluding the advancement or the expansion of a laneway in the future, should the city decide to seek conveyance of lands to expand the lane in the future. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and I'll leave it at that.
So I think my experience is that usually when it's for expansion purposes, there's a requirement that the proper building be set 2.5 meters back from the center line of the laneway. I think when it's 1 meter, it seemed to me that that's trying to accommodate, to some extent, cars turning around in the laneway. So is it? So, but from what I understand, without you having said it, is that you managed to work on the vertical, and it's a very complicated process to change this thing, and maybe you won't be able to succeed with the height and everything else if you move it, even if it's only 1/3 of a meter.
That's correct, sir, in your understanding of what those various regulations are trying to achieve from my read, and that's why I wanted to note the vertical clearance aspect of it, that it's not going to obstruct any sort of movement or maneuvering within the laneway.
Okay. All right, panel, any further questions? Yes, Sahir?
Just a quick question, just from my own understanding, just looking at the site plan and the drawings below that, essentially this looks to me, and maybe completely out to lunch, is this something that looks like an overhang?
That's correct, sir. So it's actually like the roof over the vehicle is fully cantilevered off structural supports in the west, or I guess what would be the eastern side of that car there, along the soft landscaping area. And so we're looking at about a 2.3, let's call it, cantilever from those structural supports. So it is just a carport, but there's a little more to it in terms of the structure that's required to support a cantilevered green roof.
But this supports presumably don't extend into the beyond where the car is indicated. In other words, there's no physical vertical structures that would obstruct any other vehicle turning around.
That's correct, sir, and I have that number for you. The actual structural support for these items are set back 4.47 meters.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, any comments, or do we have a motion? Zahir?
I'll give this a shot, Mr. Chair. From what I can see, the condition that transportation appears to have set doesn't seem to quite fit in with the structure that the applicant has described and is indicated in the drawings. So I'd like to take a shot and recommend approval of the application with no conditions other than forestry number 2.
All right, Nimrod, you second that?
But I'm wondering if we can tie it to the plans, and that way the plans clearly show that there are no structural elements within that distance area that transportation was concerned about.
All right.
Perfect.
That's good. You approve of that, Zahir?
Absolutely.
Okay, all in favor? Have your approval. Thank you, sir. I think we should take a 10-minute break now, come back at 11:30.
Perfect.
next item is number 14, 1957 Queen Street East. Purpose of the application is to alter the existing three-story detached building by constructing fourth and fifth story additions. There will be rear balconies on each level of this altered building. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, email correspondence from planning and from Heritage, and a report from Urban Forestry, correspondence and concern or interest from 1947 Queen Street East, and opposition from 106 and 100 Kenilworth Avenue. Sean McGaffey.
Thank you for calling Walker Notchagay Civic Associates Limited. If you know the extension of the party you're trying to...
Yeah, is there another way you can communicate, an email or something, or a text? Yeah, yeah, call him again. All right, Mr. McGaffey?
Hi.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes. Mr. McGaffey, we need you to introduce yourself and give us your address for the record.
Sorry, what item is this for?
1957 Queen Street East.
I am not the registered agent on that file. I was just 4394 Markham Street.
Okay. I'm sorry, we have a mistake here.
Okay, no problem. I'm sorry about that.
All right, thank you. So the agent's supposed to be John Plumpton. But we don't, no, I know, he's on this list, so. Do you have a number for Mr. Plumpton? Oh, okay. Mr. Plumpton?
Yes.
Yes, I'm
Can you hear
sorry.
me?
We had a mix-up here.
No problem.
Okay, so could we have your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, my name is John Plumpton. I'm with Rebel House Architecture at 130 Queens Quay East.
All right, thank you. We need a presentation from you with respect to this because we have some opposition.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this proposal fundamentally does not change the property, actually. We have the same number of units, the same parking, and the motivation for the project is an improvement to the property to include an additional unit on the top 2 floors. The addition of that unit and the improvements to the building which will allow for a fully accessible building, include 2 new staircases and an elevator. The building massing adheres to the Toronto Urban Design Guidelines, Queen Street East, Coxwold and Nursewood Road, Q Beach District. And therefore, all of the variances would be within strict adherence to those guidelines. There was correspondence with the city regarding the storefront. This is an older property. We are working very hard to maintain the existing streetscape and the character of the street. And so the one item that was under quite a bit of discussion was the accessibility, ground floor accessibility to the retail unit. We resolved that issue by including a ramp from Queen Street that actually would be accessible to both residential tenants and to commercial and to the commercial space. As far as massing goes, by adhering to the Queen Street guidelines, we showed additional materials that show that it has very, very little impact, obviously, on sunlight or visuals from other properties. And we also, by removing the garage in the rear, we have created a more desirable situation in the back lane with additional softscape that did not exist before.
Are those your comments, sir?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Panel, any questions? No, okay. Edna and Robert Gemis.
Hi. Can you hear me, Commissioner?
Hello.
Hi.
Yes, can we have your name and address for the record, please?
It's Edna Chua at 104 Kenilworth Avenue.
Yes, okay. Can we have your comments, please?
I believe that there was a letter that was submitted by my neighbors that are mostly impacted at 106 Kenilworth that I'm attached to. Michelle and Fraser had twins early yesterday morning, so are not on this call. I echo their sentiments in the letter, as does my husband, who is unable to join the call. I am unsure. I believe in the note it said that there wouldn't be a meaningful impact on parking, but with 2 new units, that's up to I have no idea how many more cars. I'm not aware of any existing parking at that property as it stands. My backyard runs along the alleyway, and we're not aware of any parking back there right now, unless it's the garage. The impact on the sunlight will be significant if we're going up. I'm not quite sure how it's not going to be impacted. And my main concern is I have young children, and the balconies on the back make me a little bit nervous with our privacy.
Okay, are those your comments?
Yes, I also understand that Lita and Ralph Noble from 100 will be speaking. Their concern, which is one of my major concerns, is that there is... Okay, I'll let them speak. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right, Ralph and Lita Noble. Okay.
Hello?
Yes. We have your
I'm on?
Yes, you are. We need your name and your address for the record. Hello.
Ralph and Lita Noble at 100 Kenilworth.
All right. We're going to hear from one of you or both of you?
I will speak. Our letter was
detailed what the implications we thought were of adding 2 stories to an area which has nothing that high from Kenilworth to the school.
Yeah.
Also, the diagram that you sent is totally illegible, even with a magnifying glass. Couldn't really get much detail on size of, you know, the measurements on your diagram, your drawing, and yeah, the parking. I think there's supposed to be parking at the rear of every business. It's a city requirement, a certain amount of parking per business, and that is a business that we're talking about.
The bylaws,
that I'm not.
The bylaws have changed.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, you know that better than I do then. And it sounds to me like it's not a minor variance if you're adding 2 stories on top of a row of buildings, of 10 buildings or more along Queen on the south side. There's nothing that height at all. The alleyway is 10 feet from our homes, and then the buildings start. So it's very close to our homes. Also, we submitted a map regarding the underground streams that are under this path. I think you have the map. We submitted it. It's on a Toronto website, and it was always told to us by architects and people that do excavation, do not disturb that underground water river that starts at Kingston Road and flows right under Kenilworth, all the way from Kingston Road down to the lake, right through Pantry Park, right through the schoolyard, impacting us, and that could cause flooding all around. So those are the reasons that I don't understand why 5 stories are necessary.
Okay.
What about just a renovation of what's there? You mentioned it's detached. There's 2 inches on either side of the building. That makes it detached? Okay, that's those are my comments.
All right, thank you. Mr. Plumpton?
Yes, thank you for the comments. I can respond to all of the items. The first item is that the number of units actually does not increase. We are remaining with the existing units. They are all enhanced. So the units have gotten larger. That allows, the idea is that we hopefully we end up with families and young families on the property. Things got larger also, as I mentioned previously, because of the additional requirements of the code for including an elevator and 2 stairs, which is one of the difficulties of going above 3 stories. Parking actually is as per existing the numbers, but we've increased the convenience of it. It actually can accommodate 4 cars, but by the specifics of the bylaw, we have 2. So we have 2 spaces outdoors and 2 spaces indoors. So we're not increasing or decreasing the parking. As far as the sunlight goes, we're very concerned about that, as anybody would be. And that's actually the purpose of the Queen Street guidelines. Because the property is on the north portion of the lot, any potential shadows would actually fall onto Queen, not onto the residences to the south. And in the study, because of such severe setbacks required by that guideline, there is no sunlight dropping onto Queen that's not already from the existing building. As far as the existing underground river goes, that's a really good point, but it's not related to this application. That's something that would have to be addressed in the design of the redesigned footing, foundations. And to date, we're not seeing any deterioration from underground water sources, but it's something that we would obviously be conscious of when we submit for the building permit. And that's my comments.
So what about the height is the height related to anything on the roofs? Or is the building fully that height, 15 or so meters?
Yeah, the height is actually exactly as per the guidelines at 15.5. We had to lower, the upper unit is a 2-story unit. And the reason we had to go 2 stories is because the setbacks are so severe off of Queen Street. We end up with a very small footprint on levels 4 and 5. So what we had to do was lower the heights of each of those floors to accommodate the 15.5 limit.
Okay. I don't quite understand what you mean by 15.5, because here it says the maximum permitted building height is 12 meters, and you're asking for 15 point.
We are, that's a variant, yeah, because our variance, as I mentioned, our variance is related to the Queen Street guidelines.
Yeah.
So we are a variance on the height, but with looking at our variance, we adhere strictly to the guidelines for future developments.
Okay. All right, panel, do you have any questions? Yes, here.
Just a couple of questions. I noted that you mentioned that the existing garage at the back is going to be removed.
Mm-hmm.
But then in variances number 8 indicates that there will be 2 parking spaces provided on site.
Yep.
So essentially, would the parking spaces be in the same location as the garage was?
No, we moved them further up onto the site.
Further up, closer to the building, you mean?
Well, there's 2 spaces potentially within the building, and then there's a drive space to get to those 2 spaces. The intention of the owner is to only use the 2 spaces for their use, and that the units on levels 2 and 3 would not have access to parking.
And that's why I imagine that your backyard, you basically have most of it paved. There's a small area of soft landscaping, but the rest of it is paved.
Correct.
Is that to accommodate the parking?
Yeah, that's right.
Or the movement of vehicles?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, and then what we did in turn is we increased, the reason that we've done it this way is we've increased the size of indoor space for bicycle parking and for and use of the tenant. So it's bicycle parking, garbage, and potentially you could park another vehicle in there. But the intention is to park outside and use the indoor space now for all the bicycle parking.
Okay. Just another quick question. With regard to the paved area in the back, presumably that's going to be, is that going to be replaced? Where the garage used to be, presumably that will be new materials you're going to be using in the back.
That's correct.
Would that be materials that could be porous?
Yeah, you could use the.
That as a condition?
I don't see that as being an obstacle.
Thank you.
Okay, panel, any further questions? Comments? Do we have a motion? Yim?
Oh, I can make a couple of comments. I think this is a very good project because it's also very sensitively designed. The new addition, the 4th and the 5th floor, actually they're stacking back. And also, I think it makes those units much higher quality because in general, the second story apartments usually is inaccessible by wheelchairs. So I think this is a great improvement for this type of housing, and I will be supporting this.
All right, you make a motion, Yim? Yeah,
okay. Yeah, I can make a motion to for approval, subject to, I think that some planning conditions from community planning.
Yeah, and there's a forestry condition, I believe, forestry number 2.
Oh, yes, forestry condition number 2. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I may just ask Ms. Chan if it should be okay to add another condition, and that is that the paving materials in the rear be constructed of permeable materials.
That's a good idea. I was going to put that into, yeah.
Okay, do we have a seconder?
And I would second that motion.
All right, all in favor? Have your approval. Thank you. Number 15, 12 MOUNTJOY Avenue. Purpose of this application is to alter the existing two-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a partial rear two-story addition and a second-story addition above the existing one-story rear portion of the dwelling. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, email correspondence from planning, and a report from planning. Mr. Domb.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, my name is Joe Dome, 133 Torresdale Avenue, agent for the owner.
All right, this is pretty straightforward. I don't think we need a presentation. Do you have anything you want to say before we go into committee?
I'd just like to point out that it's a fairly small 11.13 square meter addition, and the existing FSI is 0.92.
Okay, thank you. Panel, any questions, comments, or do we have a motion? Nimrod?
Yeah, I'd like to move a motion. I think that the variances are minor in nature. The addition is very small, and I would move approval subject to community planning conditions.
Okay, seconders are here. All in favor? Have your approval. Thank you, sir. All right, number 16 has been withdrawn. Number 17, 47 DENVALE Road. And the purpose of this application is to convert the existing front carport into an attached garage. With this, we have material submitted by the applicant. And we have, just a minute, Gregory Sarologos.
Hi there, it's Gregory here. Good morning.
Yes, can we have your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, of course. It's Gregory Sarologos. It's 47 DENVALE Road.
Okay, so this is very straightforward, relatively minor, so we don't need a presentation. Do you have anything you want to say before we go into committee?
No, just that the structure is already existing, and yes, you are correct. It's extremely minor. That's correct.
Thank you. Panel, any questions, or do we have a motion? Yes, Peter?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, as you said, this is an extremely small variance. We're just talking about a handful of centimeters for each dimension of the parking space, and I can see no negative impact from approving it, so I move approval with no conditions.
All in favor? Well, we have a seconder. Yim, you seconded. All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you, sir. Number 18, 41 Grenadier Road. Purpose of this application is to construct a new one-story ancillary building, a two-car garage in the rear yard. The existing garage will be demolished. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, and we have a letter of concern without an address. And Mr. Papa. Is Mr. Papa on the line? Mr.
Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can. We just have your name and address.
This is Ricky Papa of AFA Architects, owner's agent and architect. Our address is 174 Spadina Avenue.
Okay. So could we have a very, very brief idea of what this is about? Because we have someone who wants to speak, but they appear to be in support, but just on the off chance that they're not,
Sure.
please just let us know what this is about.
Sure. Through you, Mr. Chair, the proposal is for a single-story, two-car garage, replacing the existing frame garage on the subject property. The variances sought here are related to maximum floor space and total floor area of the ancillary garage. The proposed rear setback and side setbacks are consistent with the neighboring garages and the context of the existing laneway. With the exception of a few scattered properties along the laneway, there is a continuous uninterrupted wall of one-story garages on both sides of the laneway that have rear setbacks ranging from the minimum bylaw, which is 1 meter, to approximately 2.5 meters. To address the letter, although our submitted plans illustrate a 1 meter setback, in response to the feedback from the neighbor across the laneway, and the addresses of that letter is 26 Jeffrey Street, the owner of 41 Grenadier has entered into a written agreement to provide 1753 millimeters, 1.75 meters, setback from the laneway to address turning and parking concerns that the owner of 26 Jeffrey Street had. I note that the rear setback is not a variance sought here today, and this agreement has been submitted to the committee for reference. I think that's it. I believe this is rather straightforward besides the letter. The variances sought here are minor in nature, and the proposed building fits within the context of its surroundings. Thank you.
I take this as a double garage?
That's correct.
Right, and is that common? Because the floor area is larger than permitted.
I would say it's half and half on that laneway.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let us go. Panel, do you have any questions? No. Let us go to Barton Alina LaBarbera. Okay.
Oops.
Hello. Mr. or Mrs. Barbera? La
Yes.
Barbera? Yeah, are you
Yes.
here? You're here?
Yes.
Can we
Yes.
have your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Alina LaBarbera, and we own the house at 50 Grenadier Road.
Okay, can we have your comments, please?
Yes, no, I have no objections. I was just interested in the proposal.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so Mr. Papa, we don't need to hear from you further. Panel, any questions, comments, or do we have a motion? Say here.
I think this is a very, very straightforward application. I think the increased floor space is definitely triggered by the fact that it went from a smaller garage to a full two-size garage, a two-car garage. So I'd be quite happy to move a motion to approve. I believe there are absolutely no conditions attached.
All right, seconder, Peter, all in favor? Have your approval. Thank you, sir. 1974 Delaware Avenue. Purpose of this application is to alter the existing one-story ancillary building with one laneway suite, constructing a second-story addition in order to install a second laneway suite within this building. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, a report from community planning, And correspondence and concern or interest from 76 Delaware Avenue and 543 Dover Court Road. Mr. Raffi? Mr. Raffi?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, can we have your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Pamir Rafiq, Lucid Homes. The address is 443 Highside Drive in Milton.
Okay, we need a presentation from you because there is opposition.
Yep, of course. So I'd like to start my presentation by pointing out the housing shortage that we're facing in Ontario, especially with low-income housing. We had another gentleman earlier today who has gotten positive feedback from the committee today about the low-income housing. The variants that we're applying for are three. One of them is a setback on the rear yard, which is 0.72, whereas 1 meter is required. We have received two letters of opposition regarding this point. But I want to point out that I am aware that the laneway is rather narrow. It's a little bit tough. I drove through it with a truck and I had a hard time maneuvering around. So I understand what their concerns are. However, the setback is currently existing. So we do not intend to make the setback any worse or any better for that matter. We're not changing anything at all. It just follows the existing footprint. So whatever the current situation is, perhaps the neighbors who are in opposition of this with a reasonable concern are hearing this, and I just want to ensure to them that we're not proposing to push any further. It's going to stay exactly as is. The only reason why this is coming up as a variance is because we're going up on the second floor. So the second floor has to follow the same setback. Obviously, structurally, it makes more sense to follow the same setback, the same footprint. Therefore, we're hoping that we can consider this as a minor variance for item number one. Item number two, I just want to go through very quickly. 81% landscaping in the backyard. The requirement is 85%. It's a deviation of 4% total from 85 to 41. I think this is a minor point. We can move on from this one.
Mr. Rafiq,
Yeah.
We don't have that variance with respect to the landscaping.
Have the variance?
No, I don't have it here. I don't know whether it was left out or...
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can check the notice right now just to make sure, the zoning review. Just give me a second,
So
okay?
please deal, Mr. Rafiq, while we're waiting for that information, with the second laneway suite variance.
Yes, okay, that's what I was gonna get to next. So really, when it comes to the two laneway suites, we have the zoning bylaw allows for one, and this goes back to the shortage of housing. We're just hoping that we can get two units within this structure. We can guarantee that we have no issues with height. The massing of the structure is not a concern, so it really would not impact the visual of this unit at all. It would just make a difference with regards to the number of units, which is not visible from the outside, really. So just given the housing shortage, we hope that we can get an exemption for that. That's really the point that I'm trying to make. And then otherwise, I'm happy to answer any further questions that come.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I can confirm that I've checked. It was a waiver form that was submitted. And the only two variances listed on this waiver form is what is before you on the screen today.
Okay. So,
okay.
Mr. Rafiq, we're not going to be able to deal with that request, and so you might have to comply with the bylaw unless you want to come back for another variance.
So we'll look into it. I'll look into it and see what the situation is. I have to discuss it with my team. So let's deal with the two variances that we have at hand for now, and then we'll look into the rest.
Okay. Thank you.
you.
Matthew Earl? Okay, we'll go, could you try and get him? In the meantime, I'll go on to Douglas Husby.
Yep.
Mr.
Yep.
Husby?
Doug Husby.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can we have your name and address, please?
Yeah, Douglas Husby, 78 Delaware Avenue.
Right. Could we have your comments?
Yeah, I don't approve of having a second unit, despite the fact that these guys are talking about the apartment shortages in the city. I don't think we need to make up that shortfall on my little street in my narrow back lane. And that obviously laneway housing is the future, but that's going to put 5 or 6 units in one property, which is excessive.
Yeah. Do you have any other comments?
Yeah, so it's so I would say that's an unreasonable request and an unreasonable burden on the neighborhood. And the other comment is I noticed is Juliet Balcony on the second level looks directly out onto the neighboring property, which is I suppose entirely surprising that would be considered an appropriate thing for anybody to put on the second level, looking directly into the adjoining property. The little balcony, that just seems wrong. I'd hate if that balcony would not I wouldn't be bothered by that balcony, given that lot isn't right next to me, but I don't think anybody should have to spend their time worrying that anyone's going to build a property with a balcony that looks directly out onto their garden.
So you say a Juliet balcony, is that something that people can walk out onto?
Looks like it to me. I'm looking at the picture of it looks like, I don't know, it's a 4-foot by 4-foot balcony that opens directly onto the neighboring property as well as into the backyard of the existing property.
Okay. Do you have anything else to say?
Nope. I think that's it.
All right. Thank you. Do we have Matthew Earl? You can't? Okay. It's what? Okay. Did you send him an email? Okay. Mr. Rafiq?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Okay. So Mr. Husby objects to your second laneway suite, as does the planning staff. So do you have anything more you want to say about it?
Maybe if it matters, just to point out the balcony. It is in fact a balcony that you can step out on, but it really is looking out onto the laneway. So it's really not looking out onto the property. I hope that makes a difference in the decision.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Panel, do you have any questions? Yes, Yim?
A question, although the landscaping is not in front of us, it's not a variance, but when I look at the photographs in your backyard, at the moment, it's a lot of like either concrete paving or asphalt. How are you planning to remove some of this paving and install soft landscaping?
So if that is a requirement from the city, absolutely. We make sure to do exactly what needs to be done in order to satisfy the requirements from the city side.
Oh, okay. So you will meet the 85% soft landscaping.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? Any comments? We have a motion. Nimrod?
Yeah, I don't think that what is being proposed is appropriate. 2 laneway suites. I don't believe it meets the intent and purpose of the official plan or the zoning bylaw. And I'll just wait for other people's comments and then I would have a motion.
Yes, Yim?
I agree with Nimrod in this case, and we have the Laneway bylaws not for too long, and I feel that this is a big a departure from the intent of the Laneway Suite, which is allow one unit. And I don't feel comfortable to go that far from the intent of the bylaw.
Peter?
Yeah, I'd like to echo my colleagues' comments. I want to approve this because I think it makes sense, but I do agree that I don't think that this is in line with the official plan or the zoning bylaw. And just I think a word of caution to the applicant. This waiver, it feels like many variances may have been missed in this case. So if they're intending on coming back with a different proposal at some point, I would encourage a zoning review.
All right. Zahir?
I'm in concert with my colleagues. It's not an application I can approve.
Yeah, I would agree that Laneway Suite is not intended to be an apartment building it's intended to be an add-on to an existing house, and one suite is all that the bylaw permits, and I think that the policy is it's just an ancillary building, not something to provide housing for because the city needs housing. It's not what it's intended. It's too many units on a lot. Okay, someone, Nimrod, did you want to make a motion?
Sure, I'll move a motion to refuse the variances.
Right. Zahir, you second that? All in favor of the motion? Applications refused. Number 2083 Belfair Avenue. Purpose of this application is to alter the existing 1 1/2 story detached dwelling by constructing a 2-story rear addition and a 2nd story addition. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, email correspondence from community planning, correspondence and concern or interests from 85, 81, 89, and 88 Belfair Avenue, plus another correspondence received without address, opposition from 85 Belfair Avenue. Mr. Benzkowski?
No.
Hello?
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Can we have your name and address for the record?
Yeah, Jonathan Benzkowski, 301 Keewatin Avenue.
Yeah, and I understand you're asking for a deferral?
Correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay, can you tell us why you want a deferral?
Yeah, we made some initial improvements a couple of weeks ago, eliminating 2 variances. When we sent that back in for a new zoning review, we were actually, we had a new examiner that has actually identified 2 different variances with the exact same plans. So we will need to have a new notice issued with the new 2 variances identified.
Okay. All right. So, okay. Let me just go to the other parties on the line. Linda Tien and Timothy Fowler.
Belfair Avenue, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself and Timothy. We are aligned to reschedule the hearing and defer the decision based on the fact that the neighbors need a chance to review the new proposal. Thank you.
Okay, could you just give us your address, please?
85 Belfair Avenue.
All right, thank you. Bonnie and Dennis Maurice? Oh, okay. So he hasn't responded? No. Okay. Okay. Panel, do you have any questions? Do you have somebody have a motion for deferral? Yes, Sahir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's quite appropriate to move a motion to approve the request for deferral.
Okay, seconder. Peter, all in favor? You have your deferral, sir. Thank you. That is the end of the morning list. It is now 12:16 p.m. We will resume at 2 o'clock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.